Hi to all, my name is Zai, played Quake for over 17 years, now passing on some gaming experience, especially about mice. This is a Fnatic Flick, 3310 sensor, Omron switches, fairly safe shape, so it should be suitable for a lot of gamers. But let's find out. Now my hand is roughly 9 cm across when you measure with the thumb against the palm, over to the little finger knuckle. It's also about 18.5 cm from the tip of the middle finger down to the base down here somewhere. The way that we measure mice is actually pick it up as if you are holding it as normal, place your fingers on either side, and then measure between your fingers along the base. That's called the grip width. Generally, I find the best mice have 5.5 cm across for my hand size. This one is just under 6 cm. So that means this is in the medium category. Next, we measure the base length. And the reason that we measure the base is because that's the part that's on the pad, that's what keeps it stable. And this one is just under 12 centimeters, more like 11.6. That gives it close to a 2-to-1 ratio, length versus width. I find mice with a 2-to-1 ratio can have the best feel and balance. The height is hard to measure, but it seems like it's about 4 centimeters, which is pretty standard. For a mouse this size, we want it to be under 100 grams. So with a little bit of cable, this is a very good weight at 93 grams. There are people who prefer heavier mice, but generally, most gamers seem to prefer light mice. The weight distribution seems even, so I'd call this well balanced. Now when a mouse has flat edges, I call it a safe shape, because it's not going to get in the way of your grip. But I must say that this mouse was quite different in the hand compared to most other mice I've used. But the flat side on this mouse might actually be a concern. You see, when it's placed against a box like this, the top isn't touching, but the bottom is. This means that the slope is actually inward, and won't give much to grip on, especially if the materials are slippery for some reason. It could be a problem for people with sweaty hands that lift the mouse a lot, but somehow I think the smooth rubber actually had more grip with a bit of sweat. As seen in this gameplay video, it really wasn't a problem for me. Huge flicks lifting the mouse a lot, too easy. There are some subtle grooves in the buttons for extra comfort, and due to the downward slope on the buttons and the high middle, I think it'd suit palm grip and claw grip best. Fingertip grip might struggle a little bit. For palm grip, I'd recommend this for people with hands 16 to 19 centimeters long. But as the top is only 4.5 centimeters across, it might feel too narrow for larger hands. For claw grip, I'm assuming 17 to 20 centimeters. Fingertip, potentially struggle, but 18 to 20. Now let's do a button check. The main buttons use Omron switches and seem to have really good response times, but that's a human test that I've used, so who knows. They're easy to click in, fairly quiet, and while I can't stutter click, I'd imagine they'd be very good for MOBAs and FPS. All games really. The side buttons have very little travel and good tactile feedback. Very good quality. The mode button on top is small and hard to press in, which is good because it makes it hard to accidentally hit. The mouse wheel has a very slight rattle going up. Nothing to worry about though, it's mostly quiet. And there's plenty of tactile feedback, so the CS players should appreciate it. Mouse 3 is easy enough to press in, not too tight, and not too light like on other mice. A quick tap test will show that the mouse is well built, and the materials seem high quality as well. It seems to have the same smooth rubber coat all over, and I was worried it might be a bit too hard to grip, but so far it hasn't slipped out of my hand. Still, if you have sweaty hands and get one of these, let me know if it's a problem. The cable is braided, and while they say it's smooth, it does seem a bit rough to me. Again, I'd recommend smooth rubber instead of these braids. It also holds its shape. It gave me some hassle, but I'm sure with more time I'll figure it out. At the moment, I've just got it so that it's blue tacked down with a big loop at it. But they have elevated it at the mouse to prevent it dragging along the pad. These seem like some good features, but I think the cable could be improved on future versions. The cable is apparently 2 meters, too hard to measure a cable with bends in it though, so I can't confirm it. On the base you have 4 small mouse feet, and they glide extremely well. They're actually some of the best I've used. Now this mouse is using the 3310 sensor, which is one of the best, but let's check the implementation. The first test I like to do is rocket jumping. This requires extremely fast flicks with a lot of accuracy. If it has any acceleration or deceleration, I can usually find it this way as well. But as you can see here, looks absolutely perfect. Now we'll just quickly do the same test at 400 dpi. The previous was at 3200. And it's absolutely perfect. Now I'm going to see if I can make the mouse spin out. So I'm just going to throw the mouse across the pad extremely fast. As expected, 100% perfect. Now sensitivity 4, raw input, zoom FOV 1. So completely zoomed in. I'm just going to do a sniper test. And by that I mean I'm going to move the mouse very slowly across the pad, pixel by pixel. You can see that it's not very smooth. That's typical of 400 dpi. We'll just speed it up a little bit. As far as 400 dpi goes, that's a very good result. Now back to 0.47 sensitivity, again raw input and 3200 dpi. Pixel by pixel test. Already a lot smoother. Now I'll increase the speed. And again, as expected, 3310, very good performance. Now I've already tested for acceleration using the rocket jump test, and this is extremely difficult to get right, but I'm going to give it a try. So we're just going to move it around slowly, full 360. And then I'm going to try to hit the mark again. So I missed it slightly, but you can see there's no deceleration or acceleration on this sensor in this mouse. I can't change the liftoff distance on this mouse, and there's something a bit strange going on with it. Watch what happens when I just hover the mouse over the pad. See that? I'm not entirely sure why that's doing that, but I've tested all the other mice with the 3310 and they don't do this. So something about the implementation of this sensor is causing that, and they could probably fix it with a firmware update. Just so you know that it's not my hand causing that, here it is on top of 3 DVDs. This also gives you an idea of the liftoff height, which would be about 4mm. Here it is again, and I've taken 2 DVDs away, so now it's on 2 DVDs on either side. Not as much as of a response, but it still jitters a little bit. So that's an interesting point about the sensor, they can be different in different mice. One thing I will mention though is that it feels quite responsive. It's not the most responsive I've ever used, but it's definitely one of the top ones. Overall, the 3310 gives a great performance on all the mice I've tested it on. And as usual, it can go from 50 CPI all the way to 5000. And it goes up in increments of 50. I of course use 3200 because, as I've shown in tests, it is smoother and it's just as responsive as the 400. The software is clean and easy, polling rate, CPI settings, remapping the buttons with all the usual settings including macro, as well as CPI cycling, push to talk, multimedia, copy paste and others, specialized for Windows, or just disable. The RGB seems to accurately depict the colors set. A quick tip, if you get an error about this software not being able to recognize the mouse, make sure you're running the software as administrator. Here's a look at the RGB cycling. And this is what it looks like at interval 10. You note that it's a smooth gradient. Now I'm just going to draw a straight line. This is just checking to see if there's any jitter or angle snapping. Clearly there's not. Now I'll test for skipping. No broken lines, perfect. Now the important part, could I aim with this mouse? Well, take a look. While the base is a bit wide for me and the angles will take some time to get used to, I really enjoyed playing with it. My aim seemed very good, although still not my best. I wasn't entirely comfortable tracking, but I could easily sniper and I could hit a lot of projectiles. The flicks were definitely on point. In conclusion, there's no such thing as a perfect mouse, but you know what? We might be getting close. This mouse will be in my top 5 at some stage. It seems like a mouse that will suit most games, and be a personal favourite of a lot of people. The quality is high, the weight is right, the shape isn't quite there, but it's still very good. All of the buttons in the build feel amazing. I wasn't afraid to aim with it, I felt comfortable, and it performed very well. The mouse cost me over $100 including shipping, but that's Australia for you. If you're living in Europe, this is probably a lot better priced. Not sure about other continents, you'll have to check on their site. So final thought, I'm really glad that I bought this mouse, and it's going to stay plugged in. It's not just going to go into the mouse drawer. Check back for details in the future or stay tuned for comparison videos where I'll test it against the other top mice. There's a cliche around saying by gamers for gamers. Fnatic make that same claim. This is one of the few times I actually believe them. Despite its flaws, I really like it, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. Hope that helps. Subscribe for more reviews and gaming videos. Also check out my series of novels if you like to read. Go to theheroesfall.com, link in the description. Also check the description for other links to buy the mouse and for my social media. If you need a recommendation, check out the Find a Mouse feature on my website. Subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, and I'll catch you in the next.